Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. If you're up early, if you're up late, you are here with the ODivaZ ride this morning. This race, this essential race in the world of Zwift, including Zwift Academy. Good morning, Jason. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Chris. We have got this great view on the live stream of the pier. We've got the beacons shining up, the sun coming down. It is a great day. This is the Zwift Academy's first women's race, and I'm super excited. We've got 52 people in the pen, 25 seconds till we roll out. It is a great day out here, Chris.
I am really excited. This is going to be an exciting event today. It always is. This is one of the oldest and most storied events in the entire race series, not just the women's race series, but in general, the race series. And there are so many people. And I see 53 as we start to roll out right about now. That's it. 1 second, and we go. This is great. Now, let's talk just a little bit about what's going on today. This is well, welcome riders, first of all, but this is the folks that are going to participate in this Zwift Academy race, the first of its kind today. You've got a little bit to talk about that, just a little bit too. Tell us a little bit about this event, where it comes from, and why it's so important.
Yeah, as we group up, as we roll out, we're actually going to roll a really great clip that Zwift has put together about the Zwift Academy. And so let me roll to that now as we just get onto the main street here. As everybody gets organized at the start-finish line, I'm going to go ahead and roll to that clip to give us a little bit of information on kind of what's going on with the Zwift Academy. And here we go.
Last year, Zwift Academy opened its doors, launching a groundbreaking worldwide talent search to find the next pro rider for Canyon SRAM racing. The competition exceeded all expectation. Over 1,200 women from 51 countries signed up to take the challenge in Zwift. In a truly grand finale, on the island of Majorca at Canyon SRAM's training camp, Leah Thorvaldsen of Little Rock, Arkansas, was crowned 2016 Zwift Academy champion and the newest member of Canyon SRAM Racing. This year, it could be you.
Oh wow, I could have a shot at a pro contract, but it's for anyone. It's a huge step forward in your own fitness, and so it's not all just about the one person who's going to get a pro contract. It's a win for everyone who's involved.
Zwift Academy is this great program where Zwift is trying to get the women more involved. It's just this huge, to me, a great community. There's women coming up going, I get how this could fit into my life.
What I think is so nice about Zwift Academy, I really think that it was inspiring lots of women to take part in this adventure. Maybe they've gone far beyond their own expectations.
The course overview from Zwift blog is that video piece as well.
There were 1,200 females that joined, and there were 100 females that finished Zwift, and I can't believe I was one of them.
Yes, it's hard. Come on, you can do it, you know, just do your best. Because it's not just the physical side, it's the determination and to boost your confidence in anything else you do, not just cycling.
Find out how strong you really are. Find new friends from around the world. Find out if you have what it takes to go pro.
Do not wait, just follow your dreams.
Be the best cyclist you can be. Head over to academy.zwift.com to find out more and sign up today.
Boy, this is an exciting event. I love the opportunity that these riders are getting to be able to not only to compete for opportunities to participate in events like this, but actually just to participate, to train, to push themselves, to see who's kind of in their sphere, the rider that they've got to hold off or the rider that they want to catch and try to beat. This is really exciting, Jason.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the pieces that we've been talking about or that we've been featuring today are all those riders that did this last year. So we're going to bring a little bit more information about this year's race. But really quick, let's talk about or let's bring in the asset here about what course we're on today. So what course are we on today, Chris?
You know what? It looks like we're in a big shiny tube heading over to a terrible, threatening volcano. But we know that, of course, that volcano is not threatening at all. We are out here on the volcano course. Now, a couple quick questions for you. You've ridden this many, many times. I've ridden it a few, but I'm probably going to guess that you've ridden it far more times than I have. I mean, how do you classify this to yourself today? Is this a, a sprinter's paradise, a T-tier's, kind of, FTPL? What kind of race is this today for you?
So it does have a little bit of a mix. I do feel that it does have a small bump in it, but you know what? Let me do this. Let me bring us over to the actual elevations here, and here we are on actually Strava, looking at the volcano circuit counterclockwise. As you notice, most of it is a flat course, but it does have one down and one up. So I would say it is a sprinter's course, and the reason why is because how short and how punchy these climbs and these dumps are. So I would say it's a very classic crit-based course that allows sprinters to really shine. But typically in this group, what we'll find is that the group is actually a very high-paced, almost TT style finish and TT style race, Chris.
Boy, you know what? This volcano course is, when it came out, was one of the more exciting features added, because it added a short enough course that it kind of behaved like a circuit race, like a crit almost. I mean, we don't have a traditional 4 or 6 or 8 corner crit, you know, because they've got options here. We're not bound to a downtown area, but this event allows that lap counter kind of approach, and we're going to be able to call these laps out as we go using that great feature in the game. Now, there are probably some folks watching today that have never seen an event like this, and they're like, really, this is a thing? People don't come in here? And as we look across the group, we're seeing riders that we're not accustomed to seeing as well, and we'll call out those names as well. But along with those new riders come new fans and viewers. When you say, hey, check out what I did today, or can you believe what she's doing? Check this out. She shared this on her social media. That's how we find these new folks. Well, this is a race. These riders are really doing their big thing, and we are just about ready to start this race. Now, for those who are new, or those who are just a little bit sleepy and don't rubbing their eyes, don't really know what's going on, we're in the neutral lap here. We're coming around. We're following Thea Freestead, who is our ride leader. She's got that gold chevron spinning above her head, which she has in real life as well, wherever she walks around. If she hops into a McDonald's, they're all staring at that chevron overhead, because she is life's ride leader. That's the way I like to think of her. And she is she's kind of holding everybody together. We haven't started this race officially, because it's going to happen as we come up to the official start finish of this counterclockwise circuit. So just when you talk about elevation gains on this ride, what are we talking about? Are we talking 1,000 feet, 10,000 kilometers? I mean, really, what's the elevation gain in a single lap of this race?
The elevation gain is actually pretty low. It's actually under 100 feet, Chris. So that is short, punchy. You're looking at something pretty quick, and the whole lap is only 2.5 miles. So very short and very punchy for those uphills, for that one uphill right before the arch.
Yeah, we're coming up to it right now. Some people measure their distance in feet. Some people measure their distance, of course, in meters. However you do it, we're about to come up to the area that has the most impact in the altitude gain. Now, for those who who don't like climbing, don't worry, it's not that long, but it's long enough to create separations. And we've seen on this course before, this is often where the animation happens, the big punch, if you will, as somebody throws their energy at this hill, and how you respond to that. You know, everybody on a power trainer gets a little bit less, well, quite a bit less, out of their machines as they hit this hill. Now, you'll see as we look over the shoulder of Thea Freestead, you'll see some people slide to the front here. They're not attacking each other, but we should see how big this section is. So from the very bottom of this little riser right here to the top right here where you come into the cave, it looks to be about 40 feet. By mine, I showed 52 feet. Now she's up to 79 feet. Somebody who has a major in math can tell us what that is. And if you're watching on social media, feel free to type that in the chat. We'd love to know. 79 feet is what it was. Minus 52, carry the 1. That looks like 1,000 meters. Okay. So, but you'll notice it continues to grind upward here. And it's not flat. Well, it is a little bit flat right here, but as you come up again, you've got another one. So if you push hard, your legs are spent, you come up this flat section, and then you've got another climb. You know, we see that 0.5%. Here we go to 1%, to 2, to 3. It gets heavy again here, all the way up to 4%. This really will tax the legs, especially lap after lap. Now we're getting really close to the start here. We can see the stone arch, and we have to throw this over to, of course, our commissar, Pat Night Train O'Neill, for the official start.
Go, 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 ladies. Go, go, go.
We have a commissar in this race who makes sure that it's, delegated exactly the way it needs to be. We've got our ride leader on the front, and she's pushing hard on the front, well over 200 watts, 3.5 watts per kilo. She's not taking an advantage on here, but if you look over her shoulder, you're going to see all sorts of people spread out all over the place. There are some people who are vying for the top spot in this race. There are others who just want to beat their best friend, and they are all together here. This is a long, strung-out start here. Jason, are there big names that look like they're making this front group that you expect to see there?
This early in the race, Chris, everybody is going for it. They're going to dig in their heels and really push. The names that I'm looking at Amy Levang here. I'm looking at Alice Alexander, Helen Salt here. I'm on her right now. Taya Friedstedt, of course. I did see Kim Beezer, Stephanie Holmichael, and the likes up here in the front. We've got some new riders, Z Kreider, BRT there. That's should be Miss Conover, if I believe, and then Beth York from PTZ. And just a couple weeks ago, we did see a lot of team tactics. So we're going to see if those play out today. But really shaking it up here with both A and B riders here in the front group. And they are not taking it easy, Chris. They are really putting it down right now.
Yeah, you know what? And we often talk about this. Looks like a comet, right? You know, a race like this that's really animated looks like a comet at the beginning. You've got this head at the beginning, and then you've got this long, long tail that sticks out behind. Now that comet head is starting to form. We've got Beth York in this group. My goodness, I'm excited to call her name today. Lots of reasons. Amy Levang really sitting at the front right there. And oh my goodness, Pakala, or you say it Pakala, you'll hear some names. You're like, is that the same person I just heard? Yes, because sometimes we pronounce names differently. Kim Beezer, of course, in that group as well. Now, it looks like this is a big chunk up here. Stephanie Holmichael makes that group again. Stephanie Holmichael, a really strong historical B rider, has found a way to historically stay in this top group. I don't know how long she's going to qualify as a B rider, because she has gotten smarter and smarter through this race series over the last year and a half as we've been doing this. Now, as we look at this group, we can bounce around. You know, that's the one thing about this this tool. And I'm surprised to see a couple of people just a little bit off the back here. It looks like Kim Katronis is just have missed it a little bit, and she's in the back there just a little bit. She's 2 seconds, actually 10 seconds off that lead group, sitting in there, trying to catch back on. Maybe a little mechanical, but she's climbing her way back. She's doing way more watts per kilo. She's about to catch Boyle and Herzog, two names that she should know really well. But it looks like the vast majority of this group made the cut. Kim Beezer very cleverly sitting on the back of that. Upshaw also on the back of that group, just hanging in there. Liz Comley, of course, right in the center of that group, as we would expect her to see. And Helen Salt, another name that we know very, very well. How long, Jason, have these women been doing this race, this Saturday, every other 2 weeks race, twice a month? How long have they been doing this together?
You know, I try to look back, and I was thinking it was almost before the beginning of time that this race began, Chris. So,
I think that those are fighting words for some of these ladies. Yeah, our the gold chevron emblazoned Taya Friedstedt would say beginning of time. Really, Jason? Arms folded gives you that look.
No, we're looking at just around 6 months of racing. Actually, this race started out as just something that was a test to see if there was any, gauge for the women to want to race against other women. And boy, has it launched into what you see today. You're looking at 50 riders riding today. And this race is offered the first and the third Saturdays of the month. And then we're looking at a second race that it's on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Pacific time, that allows riders in the middle of the week in different time zones to be able to race in the same format, but in the middle of the week.
Yes, and it's going to be awesome. Now, we have a smaller group off the back there. TeamODZ managed to assemble some great riders back there, and we will definitely bounce around and talk about those. We've got different folks as we'll do a rundown here in just a minute and let you know where your favorite riders are. A couple things to point out. Now, there are some riders in this group that have something kind of sitting right next to their name in the list. If you're looking at the interface, you'll see that Liz Comley is wearing an orange jersey, and that's kind of a humble brag. Hashtag humble brag. By the way, before I joined this race, I went out and I got the lap jersey for the fastest lap time on the island. No big deal. Here I am with this jersey. Now, as she's in this race here, she's not showing that jersey, but it does indicate that she got it going the other direction, and that's a big one. Boy, as we come up and over this hill, we got a little bit of animation here. Inga Jansen and the rest of that group, Z Kreider as well, Helen Salt, push hard, and they break some people off the back. Now, this may not be a significant move for everyone. There are probably good riders in there, Kim Beezer, Carrie Conabear, who are going to be able to pull that back, but that's a lot of work to do as we come up here into this, under the banner to 4 laps to go. Wow, that's an impressive group. So now, for those who made it, the Beth Yorks, the Kalas, the Alice Alexanders, those riders are in a good position. But what does this mean for Helen Salt? Or rather, some of these other riders who are just off the back here, just a little bit trailing, Pakala and others, Liz Comley included.
So when this sort of thing happens, Chris, what you need to do is you need to quickly group up, look around, and get on top of that pedal and close that gap. This gap is growing. We're looking at 5 seconds or more. The group of Amy Levang, Liz Comley, they need to kind of get on top of this. They have a chance. They are flat and just about to go downhill. This is the chance. They need to stay steady, close that gap, and as soon as they hit that downhill, really punch it, because that's the place where you're going to close a gap going downhill, especially at the weight that a lot of these riders are riding at. You're looking at needing to create the watts in order to make this happen. And that's where the magic is, Chris.
Yeah, and again, for the first-time viewer here, you're like, well, what does it matter? Just pedal a little bit harder. But boy, the folks at Zwift and John and all of his code monkeys have done an amazing job programming in real-life physics into the way that these bike races work. Now, if you're a bike racing fan at all, you know that a big group of people casts a shadow in the wind, if you will, a hole in the wind. And so a big group of riders is a lot easier to ride behind than a single rider, or certainly by yourself. And so as we bounce around here looking at this, we see that there's a big group of riders. Now, at the front of this, you'll see, a little watts per kilo sign. Some of them are doing, 3, 4 watts per kilo. That's an indication of going pretty hard. Well, but if you bounce even further back into the group and you see some of these folks like Liz Comley in this small group, they have to work much, much harder to overcome the aerodynamics of a small group. A large group can go faster with a couple of fast people on the front working hard, again, because they create that drafting effect like NASCAR. But that has grown to 22 seconds. Now, Liz is still in a great spot. She is vying for that B race. She's got a willing group. Now, what she's hoping for, and you jump in on this, Jason, she's hoping for another round of fireworks up at the front that breaks a few more people off the back. If you are in a chase group, you want some crazy things to happen up front because it breaks people off the back, makes that group smaller. So, but how are they going to hold that together, Jason? How is this group going to stay together and be smart? And what are you telling your rider, the rider that you coach, the rider that you teach tactics to, about what it means to ride in this group with 4 laps to go?
Right now, okay, so this is where we're at. We have 5 riders in this chase group, and they're putting out 5.5, 4.5 watts per kilogram. So at this point, what we're looking at is making sure that they stay together. Step one. 2, watch that gap. Right now, it's at 28, 29 seconds. That's a good distance. If they're going to close this, they're going to need more riders, or the pace is going to significantly need to drop off on that front group. So priority 1, stay with the group, keep the gaps closed. And step 2, when you get onto the front, if you're going to need to close that gap, you're going to need to up the watts per kilogram, just as we see Alice Webster, as she comes around, she's going to punch it up. She is a B rider. This is the B group here, Chris, with Kirsten Katronis, Megan Herzog. This is the B group, so this may be the separation of the B riders here.
Yeah, it is. You know what? And it looks like they're in a big group here, and that gap is growing. So we'll check back in on them in a little bit, and we'll certainly do a rundown here somewhere in the 3 laps to go group. So as we look around this group, the pace has dropped a little bit. Yes, they're still doing about 28 miles an hour here on the flat, but the effort on the front is not nearly as high as it was. On the front right now, Carrie Conabear from BRT saying that I want to set the pace here. Now she's up there. She's got some folks around her. It's fun to see the team jerseys kind of coming together here. We definitely see the black, the teal, and the orange of the ODivaZ. We also see some of those other great kits as well. What are some of your favorite kits that you see in the group?
Well, Chris, I'm a little bit biased. Riding for TeamODZ, I really think that's a really awesome kit. But you know what? You know, Zwift has some great attributes. You know, we can see the Zwift Academy kit that some of the riders are riding from last year, but across the path or across the game, riders are allowed to change their avatars to really reflect kind of their inner self, whether it be you want it to look like your actual self in real life or the avatar that you play online. And that's the great thing about video games. And you know that, Chris, that people can take on that alter ego while they're here, and to be a person that they may not be, you know, that punk rockin', crazy, going out, all that stuff. You can do that here, and that's what that allows us here in the game.
Yeah, an avatar is an expression of self that you then use to navigate a virtual space. I'm here at PAX West, actually in Seattle right now, broadcasting from a hotel room. You're like, you what? Yes, for work. I'm a university professor, for those who don't know, and I am here at PAX West presenting a panel on college esports, and we'll talk about that on another time. Here, as we come under the banner with 3 laps to go with this lead group here, it's exciting to see on board with Inga Jansen. That's who I'm looking at right now. That's a great thing. You can jump around on this, but that avatar is an expression of a personal self in a virtual space. They have continued to add the different characteristics that you know, that kind of feisty self, that punk self. I love as we look at Beth York, and Beth York is a model of a professional. You would not expect to see her with a mohawk slicked back, but yet her avatar has that going for her. I'm going to get to hang out with Beth very soon here in Paris, France for the CVR race. We're going to have a number of these women that are in this race represented in the live event that's happening in Paris, France next week. You're definitely going to want to see that, and I'm excited to actually be on the desk with our longtime friend and collaborator Beth, who's in this race today. So as we kind of come into the meat of this race here, we came up and over that riser again. We saw a little bit of animation. Did we lose anybody from the group, or did you spot anybody kind of being put into jeopardy there? May have fallen off the back, may have had to spike that heart rate to get right back into that group.
That group looks like it stayed pretty much together, but you know what? They're really strung out. We've just changed courses, so it's allowing a few riders to be on the last part of the course, so they have not come up on our screens yet, but it looks like maybe 2 or 3 riders might be headed back to that group 30 seconds behind, but otherwise, as a whole, this group is still together and strong, and the riders are matching each other as each of them get to the front and really show what they can do here at the front with 3 laps to go.
Oh my goodness, you are not kidding. So it looks like it started to rain a little bit here. How is that, Jason? And how is that going to change the way that the race is run? Do they have to be a little bit more careful here in the virtual world? How are they going to deal with this rain?
Well, I think more so it is a virtual asset that plays a mental part into what we do here in the game. But a lot more so, it just kind of plays on just how real the world feels here on Watopia. But there isn't any actual physics behind, do you need to slow down to make a U-turn? You could actually take it as quickly as you want in the game. So there's no slowing down in that respect, but there is that mental component in the rain. It's turned dark. This race started in sunny 80-degree weather. We are so far from the start that it is raining. We are inside a volcano. This has got to be real. Nothing else could be like this.
Well, and these riders have been going for almost 10 miles now, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 24 minutes for most of them, not including any warm-up they would have tacked on. So we're starting to see a little bit, a little bit of that fatigue in the legs here. And in a second, as we get down on the flat here, I want to talk just a little bit more about Zwift Academy. But some of these riders can go, toe-to-toe with one another all day, but others can go toe-to-toe for a certain amount of time. One of the things that we talk about here, and we won't get too into the numbers here, is this idea of FTP, which is basically how long can you hold your power. There's a 20-minute FTP. There are other ways to judge it, but really, how much power do you have on the bike and how long can you hold it? Some of that is described as fitness. You're the expert in this area. But one of the things we've talked about a lot recently is FTP at interval. How long can you hold your FTP, right? Can you hold it for 28 minutes? Can you hold it for 9? And knowing that number is important for you as an individual, but also knowing, where your limit is and being careful that you don't go beyond your limit with the, against somebody else and put yourself in jeopardy that you won't have any energy left. What's the importance of knowing, one of these well-trained Zwift Academy hopefuls? What's the value of a number like that?
Absolutely, Chris. What this speaks to is the zones of training. And what we're talking about essentially in very simple terms is how far or how long you can go at that full gas, like these ladies are going here for 25 minutes, knowing that if you go any harder, you're only going to be able to go for a short amount of time. And so knowing those zones is what the group at today's plan, as well as the group at Zwift Academy, have put together this FTP test and as well as other workouts to be able to educate riders on this just sort of thing. And so what it'll allow a rider to know is how hard they could go, or the watts per kilogram, or the watts, or the effort that they'll need to be able to put out, that they'll know where they can be in this little sweet spot here, Chris.
Oh, you are not kidding. We pull away for just a second. We've got some action at the front. Zeke Ryder and Kala decided that they were going to put some work in over that climb, and they are breaking this group apart just a little bit. Now, these are strong riders. They're going to be able to hang on to this group, but they are going to have to do much more work to get back to the front. It's a little bit of panic that shoots through that group, and behind, trailing, trying to catch on here, names that Alice Alexander, Inga Jansen, Stephanie Holmichael, Kim Beezer, all these names that you know really well, now having to do more work to pull themselves even with these two riders that decided to just push a little bit harder. But it looks like they're all going to be in there. Vanier, who's also the A rider, is the one really at the back of this group. Kanachi, I think I said that correctly, is a couple seconds back, having to pull that just to stay with that group to get up there. That's a big move right there. Now, there are a lot of racers that say that whenever they come up to a hill in a big outside race, what they try to do is they try to get to the front and even off the front, because they know that those strong climbers are going to be able to put gaps into them. And rather than put themselves in a position of panic midway through the climb and try to catch these super climbers, they'll try to put themselves off the front so that, again, that differential in speed and time up a climb is instigated in the beginning, and then those folks come back to them. It's almost like a psychological thing. And do you think that could be happening with these riders, or do you think they're trying to animate the race and see if they can't break a couple people off the back?
I think you're definitely right, Chris, especially for these KG veterans that know how the game works. So explaining how it works out in real life and how this game works, they are very parallel, but there are very specific things that happen in the game that may not happen in real life, and that is one of them. And if you've ridden this course and these hills and these gradients, you know what you can do to get yourself or keep yourself in the group and still get you those micro breaks that allow you to let off the pedal a little bit and allow you to keep up the pace and allow you to still have that punch there for that final lap, especially here on the crit lap.
This is a crossover esport, as it's called here. Now, if you're not familiar with esports, I think most people here are. We're talking about competitive video games. And this is, in many ways, a video game. I would argue it's probably more of a virtual world. But, boy, let's save that for the lecture on Wednesday nights in my EdTech 531 Games and Sims class. But this crossover esport is one that people come together, but they use their physical self in addition to their mental and emotional self to compete. Now, I'm here at PAX West right now. One of the big elements of this is esport, and they're all different kinds. I watched fighting games like Smash yesterday. I watched professional League of Legends players play walk-ups, people who just wanted to see if they could take them out. It was hilarious. I saw some 3-on-3 Overwatch competition yesterday. You're more than welcome. I'll send lots of stuff out today. If you want to follow me on Twitter at Haskell. That's sad that I've been alive so long that I was able to actually just get my last name for Twitter before I knew that you needed to make it different and obscure. But nope, I'm just Haskell. But this idea of a crossover esport, competitive video games, but you've got to put your physical self into this. Boy, Z Kreider, again, with just a little bit of a riser. It's only 2% coming up there, but put the gap into this group. The folks, it's hard to see on their avatar faces, aren't really worried about them. I believe that's Fedorowicz. I'm going to work on pronouncing that name as well. The Polish flag there. Great to see all of the different nationalities represented in the flags that these riders have selected. But as they are all in their different places, their different rooms, their pain caves, wherever they have their bike, their computer, and their trainer set up, they are competing in this esport. From time to time, events like the CVR in London, and there was one in Las Vegas, and all over the place. We've got one in Paris coming up in a week. They'll come together in the same room, make sure that everything is the same, the temperature, the bikes are set up properly, that the trainers are working, and then they get to actually see each other and race head to head. But right now, this is a distant esport. They're here together in the virtual world only. Maybe one or two of them, might be in the same place as part of a spin lab or something like that, or just buddies who come over to each other's house to say, let's do this together. And we know there are a couple of examples of those. But this is kind of this distant esport. People who love to work out together, love to race together, and test themselves. That really is what it is. It's not a hatred, but test themselves against one another. We want to know more about the Zwift Academy here, but I think we're going to see some action happen here. I've been looking around. Taya Freestead positions herself right in the middle of this group, and as we look over her shoulder, she's casting her eyes to the front. Inga Jansen also making a move here. It looks like our ride leader as well. Alexander's also in that group, but our ride leader Taya with that chevron over her head and the big cone, she never gets away, making sure that she's up there in the front of that group. Looks like we got a little bit different here. We're going to see some lap riders coming into the group here. I'm getting caught off the back, but Kala does it again and pushes to the front here. This time without Zeke Kreider, 2 seconds back. Kala actually has a gap on the rest of this group. That is a big move, isn't it, Jason?
It is, Chris. Zikala has definitely known for these big punches at the end of the races, but looks like the group is going to reel her back, which is a great job by those 12 riders to really stomp it down. So definitely a great move. Let's see what how it's kind of panned out. But as we have a quick little break here, we'll get the lap counter. Looks like we're going to be, is it 2 laps to go here as we go across? We are 1 lap to go.
Ah, yes. It wouldn't be a circuit race or a crit race without a bell. 1 to go, 1 to go, 1 to go. And Kala has actually carved out for herself a 4-second gap against Stratman, a 6-second gap against York, Beezer, Alexander, Conabear, and the rest of that group. And as if you're watching Kala, if you're like locked into her. Her avatar, you can see that this gap is pretty big. And there are moments on this curvy course where she is out of view from the rest of that group. And as they come out of the volcano now, the rest of the group, you can see that they are all together and they are chasing her down. But that gap is continuing to grow. Kala is doing 4.5 watts per kilo. She's sitting on the wheel of Hilden, who's a PTZ rider who is actually a lapped rider. Hilden doing a lot of work. This is an interesting move. Well, I could be wrong. Hildenen is the name. Hildenen might have also been in that group, and I just hadn't called the name. I'll check Zwift Power right now. But as we come into this final lap, tell us the importance of this race in the world of Zwift Academy, Jason. What in the world is Zwift Academy, and what does this race mean in that world?
Yeah, as we have a moment here, let me go ahead and switch this over. What we'll be able to do is kind of tell about the Academy. So essentially, the Zwift Academy is going to be running from September 1st to October 13th here. And it allows riders, both in the women and the men's category, to get a chance to kind of put themselves up against other riders. And the way they're going to do this is actually they're going to be doing 5 group rides with the Zwift Academy community. They're going to be doing Zwift Academy training program in Zwift with today's plan, with a great asset and group that has been added to Zwift, and also complete 2 races. And guess what? All the ODivaZ races are included. That means the 2 Saturday races as well as the Wednesday race. And you will just be able to go through, do all these things with the community, and get through the competition, and you'll get a chance to get to that Canyon SRAM team and get a chance to meet those people and move forward. But the 10 finalists, all the details are online. As the 10 finalists do move forward, they do get a couple other prizes and benefits. But we've got a huge break on front, so I'm going to bring it straight back to the race. Chris, we've got to get this. We are in our final lap, but definitely check on Zwift Academy on Zwift.com and under the community channel, and we are back to the race here.
Boy, okay, so Siri Hildenen is the PTZ rider that we are seeing on the front, and I mistakenly called her a newbie, but she is a vet, and she is from Norway and a strong PTZ rider. She and Kala have gotten a break off the front, and this is a group of note. It is 7 seconds. Now, that's not insurmountable. 11 to a couple of these riders, 12 seconds. But they are putting down high power at the front. Hildenen is on the front just drilling it. Now, Hildenen is known in her community and certainly in her nation of Norway as a really strong rider. She is a time trial specialist. Very proud of that in real life. She's relatively new to Zwift, or at least doing these types of events in Zwift. She has only a handful of Zwift power registered rides in the last little bit, but clearly she's putting down the power now. And as we look at her, she's working really hard. She's keeping that cadence nice and high. She's delivering a really consistent power throughout. Now, Kala, super smart, super cagey, has done many of these sitting right on her wheel. But we're about to get to the big business of this race. And I would have to guess at this point, unless something crazy happens, this is 1-2. If you look over the shoulder of these riders, you're going to see the rest of that chase group, which was the body of the main field with that beautiful golden cone of ride leader Taya Freestad. And she is working hard with that group. She's actually at the front of that group, drilling it, saying, we've got to catch these folks right now. Well, here's my question to you. You've got a time trial specialist drilling it on the front. You got a cagey veteran like Kala just hanging back there, trying not to do more work than she needs to do. Who is the likely podium finisher? I mean, who's going to be at the top of that podium, Jason, of these two?
So here's the thing, Chris. It all comes down to this final sprint. TT riders will definitely get the power down to get you this gap. And as we look back, you can see the beacon. And here we go. Z Kala puts down an 11 watt per kilogram as she goes up the hill. Very classic of her moves.
My goodness. Boy, that's her sprint right there. And she is moving away from Hildenen, saying, hey, I pulled you here. What are you doing? I thought we were doing this together. 3 seconds, 4 seconds. That is where you want to put in your attack. You can get much more of a gap coming up there. And unless something dramatic happens, a wheel falls off, the lava takes her, Ragnaros, the lava monster takes her from the thing. I think that she's going to go along to win this. Now, that would be interesting if we can mix some universes here. But Kala is going to come across that finish line first. I can't imagine anyone is going to catch her. Certainly not Hildenen, 8 seconds back. But Hildenen, who is coming up to this finish, is going to take that second place. Carrie Conabear managed to get away from that group. As we've been watching the front of this race, some fireworks happened in the back there. Carrie Conabear looks like she's going to come across and take that third position. Again, Fedorowicz, the Polish rider, coming across third. No, it looks like she might have actually edged. We'll see in the final results here. But the rest of that big women's group comes across. Now, based on the way it looks like it it came across. We see those top 10, which we'll report on in just a second. But let me talk a little bit about what happened behind that. We had a group of 15 together at one time, Freestead in that group. Further back in the course, we have Amy Levang, Boyle, Kim Katronis, Herzog, Senya Pakala, Liz Comley, Upshaw, Martell, the Canadian, Rice, the Brit, Tansky, Webster, Zanel, Muckner, rounding out the top 30. And this is such a big group. Names that we hadn't seen before, rounding out that next 10. Brown, Rodriguez, Gray, Smedal, Team Moose, one of our absolute favorites. Certainly not the mascot of the group, but definitely that pro that everybody likes. Ansari, Guski, Brasandi, York, and of course Tina Frankenham. Lots of folks in there. I'm looking as we glance back to that. We'll name a couple more of these riders momentarily. We've even got the night train in there, which we won't count. Now, if you're like, where is he pulling these names and numbers from? Well, you can always visit ZwiftPower.com. ZwiftPower.com is a place where you can actually watch these races unfold. This is not a Zwift property. It is something created by the community, which we've talked about on previous broadcasts here, which just makes this so dang cool. Okay, so Jason, you've got a better understanding of that top 10 finish. Do you want to help us understand what happened there?
Yeah, let's break it down. So we've got Z Kala making that final move up that bump to get over and to the finish line. Just in front, we're looking at 39, just almost about 10 seconds from Miss Hildeman there. That's second place. We got, I think it's Anna Fiederichs for third, Z Kreider for fourth, Carrie Conaber for fifth, Stratman for sixth, Stephanie Holmichael for seventh, Kim Beezer for eighth, Taya Friedstedt for nine, and a new rider, I think it's Victoria Gag for 10th place. And that rounds out our top 10 riders here on the ODivaZ women's race, the first of many here for the Zwift Academy women's group. So those are our top 10, Chris.
That is really fabulous, and this event, we've loved this event for a long time, and it's fun to see it grow. There's certainly parts of the year where it has a little bit less participation because people are outside, and we're not going to blame them for being outside. That's just one of the things that you do. And so this race today, though, has a little bit more emphasis on it. And if you're joining us late, and I know, and as I look at the numbers, I realize that some people are. This is now a Zwift Academy event, a qualifier, if you will, something that you can check that box of being serious in your training and really wanting to show what you can do to measure yourself against other riders. And we think it's only going to get bigger in this month. Jason, how many of these races are we doing, and when can people expect to watch them?
So we will be doing and broadcasting at least 2 of these races on the Saturday mornings. And possibly there'll be an edition of the men's broadcast on Mondays. So they're still in the mix, still trying to get all the commentators lined up. But I know for sure Chris and I will be here for the 2 ladies races on this Saturday today, and in 2 weeks again on that Saturday morning at the same time slot.
Yeah, and this, as the kids would say, has been our jam. We've loved doing this race. I can't even count the number of these that we've done. And it's fun. This is Zwift broadcasting, calling these virtual races, so much fun. We've got other friends and colleagues in the world of Zwift that like doing these as well. Everybody knows Nathan Guerra. He's a great dude, and he's been doing a lot of these races. But we got a chance to do one of these early on, and I believe it was Pat, or maybe it was you correct me on this, who had the idea, hey, what if we broadcast one of these? There aren't any events for the women right now. And we discovered very quickly as we started broadcasting these that these were the races to watch, the fun races. You get to meet these personalities, and you go from calling a name like Taya Friedstedt to calling Beth York, to actually meeting with them, befriending them, getting to know them, getting to spend actual physical real-world time with these amazing athletes and unbelievably cool people. So it's fun to see this from great idea to really compelling opportunity to like really fulfilling experience. Your thoughts on the history of this event?
No, I think it's been a great thing, Chris, and it's given a great outlet to women's racing. It's allowed a springboard to all kinds of media between Zwift Watch TV, between the chat and chills that Taya Friedstedt does, to even the new thing that they do called recycling. So check out all these outlets and partners that we have, because all these feature women's cycling and the riders and the personalities behind them. So definitely a great springboard towards all of that.
Well, let me put on my my doctor hat for a second. Well, let's be honest, professors don't wear hats. Let me put on my jacket with the elbow patches for a moment, and go full on professor for you. You know, if you're watching this going, this is really cool, but I probably shouldn't be watching other people race bikes, right? You know what? You are part of a grand participatory culture that exists in our world today, and it's an exciting one. And it is the way things are happening. I tweeted out a video yesterday from PAX of a room full of about 2,000 to 3,000 people watching just a handful of people play Mario Kart. I'm going to say that again. 3,000 people watching 4 people play Mario Kart. Cheer, you know, get excited. And they were glued into this. Now, who are these people playing Mario Kart? A couple of them were well-known YouTubers and gamers, but many of them were not. That were racing in this. They were just people like you and I. So when your eyes fall on virtual bike racing and you catch yourself like leaving it on while you have breakfast, or watching or listening to the replay in the car on your way to work or wherever you're going next, that is the participatory culture that we're in. And video games, esports like this are just part of that culture. Don't feel bad. Embrace it. Tell people, oh yeah, I'm watching this event. Don't be bashful, because the truth is the world, the greater world at large, loves the opportunity to be a part of a story. And you can reach out and touch the story here. You can reach out and give these riders a ride on. You can ride with them in real life. You can send them a message saying, great job, and guess what? They will respond. Participatory culture and part of our grand digital culture, and it's exciting to be a part of it. Okay, so we got to let these folks go. They got to get on with the rest of their lives. Some of these riders got to get back and do some stuff. I'll just put in a little bit of a plug. You'll hear more about it, but I get to be with the amazing Beth York and maybe another one of these riders in the coming weeks in Paris, France, specifically Versailles. We're coming together, and I and Beth are actually going to be able to call all of the races as part of the CVR, the Cyclogent Virtual Racing World Cup Series, which will include some world-class riders, some former professionals, some current superstars, and you know what? Some dang good developing riders that, well, we say developing, they can kick both of our butts, Jason, especially mine. They kick my butt twice in the time it would take to kick yours. But they're going to be there in that space, and we're going to have more opportunity. Some of these riders are going to be able to participate in that as well, but more on that later. So I'm excited to be a part of that. I'm excited to be able to continue to call these events ourselves. It's just a cool world that we live in. I can't believe this is my real job. Jason, your thoughts as we close here?
Absolutely, absolutely, Chris. The last final things before we sign off, I want to thank everyone on social media, Katrina Weiss, Carrie Conabear, all those people that are dropping in. Anybody who's checked out this race, definitely check it out again. We've got a great broadcast here. We're very interactive. We've got lots of media here for you. Just want to thank everyone out there, and we look forward to seeing everyone next week, in 2 weeks for the ladies' race. If you haven't heard about it, let someone know, tell a friend. And from here, Chris, we're going to go ahead and sign off here from Watopia, and we'll see everybody in 2 weeks. Right on, everybody.
Awesome. Right on.